Our next speaker has been an inspiration to many young people in the student movement. She's been an unrelenting activist against racism, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and defending refugee rights. I'd like you all to please give a warm welcome to the NUS Vice President of Further Education, Shakira Martin.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this important meeting today, and it's great to be here. With the Tories and the press constantly pushing the racist agenda, it's important we stand up to it. I'm the NUS Vice President Further Education, so I want to draw on some particular issues and links between what's going on in our education and the racist scapegoating. When we are fighting to defend further education and adult education, we are fighting to defend something that provides huge opportunities and chances for working class people, stopping the government from throwing them under the scrap heap. We know there's a lot of racist discrimination in employment that we are still fighting for. For example, you are far more likely to get a job call back if you have a white-sounding name. And in many areas, the rates for young black people being unemployed is around 50%. This is Britain in the 21st century. There has always been a long tradition of black communities embracing education and learning, despite constant attempts to shut us out through tuition fees and marking our work down. And that's why you'll find black people entering further and higher education at higher rates than their white peers, for example. So the fight to stand up for those opportunities and access education is on. When they cut our education maintenance allowance, that is the biggest impact on young black learners who overwhelmingly receive it. When they trebled our tuition fees, the impact on black students is made worse by the fact of debt taking longer to pay off because of pay discrimination. And when they cut ESOL courses, they are denying people access of essential skills. When David Cameron made his speech that Muslim women who didn't speak English well enough may be deported, it had nothing to do with the fact of the huge number, 850,000 people in this country that don't have the basic language skills. It was more driven by disgusting racism, Islamophobia and sexism. Because the reality is, the Tories, who are denying people the right to learn English, are making massive attacks and cuts to ESOL and colleges through the area review process. The Conservatives have cut ESOL budgets twice in the last 5 years. These ideological austerity cuts are taking money and services away from those who need it most in our society. Our politicians and national papers scapegoat migrants, blame them for stretching the state, and blame them for not being able to speak English. It's lazy politics and cheap journalism. Our English language classes aren't empty. Thousands and thousands of people desperate to learn are queuing up for ESOL courses across the country, 2/3 of them being women. Indeed, the vast majority of all adult learners are women, and a great many black women who are having their lifeline taken away because of the cuts to our education, while at the same time being demoralised by this government's sinister prevent agenda, and comments like those made by David Cameron only a few months ago. I believe these women need education and training, and not surveillance and suspicion. It shows once again that when it comes down to meeting the needs of migrant communities, of black communities, of women and disabled people, the Tories just don't have a clue. As I mentioned, prevent. We have to challenge this totally uncounterproductive policy that demonises Muslim students. Muslim students should be that, students, not suspects. It's fantastic to see so many of us here today to say loud and proud no to racism, no to Islamophobia, no to anti-Semitism, and that refugees are welcome here. But we're living in times of both despair and hope. I despair every single day at this disgusting racist media headlines which blames migrants of the lack of housing and lack of jobs, when we know it's the cuts the Tories are to blame. I despise as I watch the news and seeing human beings fleeing from war, fleeing from the devastation caused by Britain's bombs, only to end up drowning in the sea or suffering at refugee camps across Europe. And I'm despised when I look around my community in Lewisham and I see the number of black people experiencing institutional racism. Because the truth is, in a time of austerity and cutbacks, it's black people are the first to be fired and the last to be hired. We are being targeted by racist stop and search. We are living in difficult times, but family, despair gets us nowhere. And despite this racist government, we have many reasons to be hopeful. The response from ordinary people to the refugee crisis has been incredible. And I feel hopeful and determined, because together and fighting back, we can turn the tide of racism. With leaders like Jeremy Corbyn and Natalie Bennett, with years of supporting and championing the cause of anti-racism behind them, I feel hopeful, because at last we have leaders who are going to be with us every step of the way in the fight for against racism. We must continue to fight together, and I would like to encourage all of you to get involved in the Stand Up to Racism campaign and be a part of creating a better society, one which celebrates diversity and multiculturalism. Together, we will win a future free from racism. Love and solidarity.